Hey everybody, I hope everyone's having a great day. And you need to get in bed, tucked in, get some snacks, and we're gonna continue. We're gonna continue Crenshaw, the cat in the kid book. We're on page 36, so let's start reading. Okay, alrighty. Page 36. Get cozy. I said that I did not think a crocodile would enjoy taking a bath. I've just read a whole library book about reptiles. My dad told me to go with the flow. Did you know that you can hold a crocodile's jaws closed with a rubber band? I asked. My dad smiled. I wouldn't want to have been the first person who tested that theory. Robin asked my mom if I had a favorite book when I was a little. She didn't ask me because she was pouting about my bathtub comment. My mom said Jackson really liked A Hole Is to Dig. Remember that book, Jackson? You must have read that to us a million times. That's more like a dictionary that I made up. Oops. Dictionary that I made up story, I said. A brother is to help you, my mom said, which was a line from the book. A brother is to bug you, said Robin, which was not a line from the book. A sister is to drive you slowly insane, I replied. The sun was beginning to set. The sky was tiger colored with stripes of black clouds. I have to get my stuff ready for the yard sale, I said. Hey, stick around, dude, said my dad. You'll read A Hole Is to Dig, assuming we can find it, that is. I'm way too old for that book, I said, even though it was the first thing I put in my keepsake's bag. Lily, one more time, Robin said. Please, 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 Dad, I asked. Did you buy some purple jelly beans? Nope. Then where did they come from? The ones in the Robin's tea ball cap? It doesn't make any sense. Robin went to Kyle's birthday party yesterday, said Mom. Did you get them there, Sweet Pea? Nope, Robin said. Kyle hates jelly beans. And anyway, I told you they were magic, Jackson. There's no such thing as magic, I said. Music is magic, said my mom. Love is magic, said my dad. Rabbits in a hat are magic, said Robin. I would put Krispy Kreme donuts in the magic category, said my dad. How about the smell of a new baby? Asked my mom. Kitties are magic, Robin yelled. Indeed, said my dad, scratching Arch's ear. And don't forget dogs. They were still going at it when I shut the door. We're on chapter 9. I love my mom and my dad and usually my sister, but lately they've really been getting on my nerves. Robin was a little kid, so of course she was annoying. She'd say things like, what if a dog and a bird got married, Jackson? Or sing Wheels on the Bus 3,000 times in a row. Or steal my skateboard and use it for a doll ambulance. The usual little sister stuff. My parents were more complicated. It's hard to explain, especially since I know this sounds like a good thing, but they were always looking on the bright side. Even when things were bad, they'd been a bad a lot, they joked. They actually silly. They pretended everything was fine. Sometimes I just wanted to be treated like a grown-up. I wanted to hear the truth, even if it wasn't happy truth. I understand things. I knew way more than they thought I did. But my parents were optimistic. They looked at half a glass of water and figured it was half full, not half empty. Not me. Scientists can't afford to be optimistic or pernicious. They just observe the world and see what it is. they look at a glass of water and measure 3.75 ounces or whatever, and that's the end of the discussion. Take my dad. When I was younger, he got sick, really sick. He found out he has the disease called multiple sclerosis. Mostly he has good days, but sometimes he has bad ones when it's hard to walk and he has to use a cane. When he learned he had MS, my dad acted like it was no big deal, even though he had to quit his job which was building houses. He said he was tired of listening to hammering all day long. He said he wanted to wear fancy shoes instead of muddy ones, and then he wrote a song about it called The Muddy Shoe Blues. He said he might work from home, so he tapped a sign on the bathroom door and said, "Office" or "Mr. Thomas Wade." My mom put a sign next to it and it said, "I'd rather be finishing." And that was that. Sometimes I just want to ask my parents if my dad is going to be okay, or why we don't always have enough food in the house, or why they've been arguing so much. Also, why I couldn't have been an only child, but I don't ask, not anymore. Last fall, we were at a neighborhood potluck dinner with Artra, ate a baby's disposable diaper. She had to spend 2 nights at the vet's until she pooped it out. Poop in, poop out, my dad said when we picked up her. It's the cycle of life. The cycle of life is expensive, my mom said, staring at the bill. Looks like rent's going to be late again this month. When we go to that car, I came right out and asked if he had enough money for stuff. My dad said, "No, not to worry." Then we just were a little financially challenged. He says sometimes it's hard to plan for everything unless you have a crystal ball, can see the future. And if I knew someone with a crystal ball, I would love to borrow it. My mom said something about winning the lottery, and my dad said if they won the lottery, could he please get a Ferrari, and said, how about a Jaguar? And then I could tell they wanted to change the subject. I didn't ask any more hard questions after that. Somehow I just knew my parents didn't want to give me hard answers. Chapter 10. After I got ready for bed, I lay on the mattress and thought things over. I thought about stuff I put in my keepsakes bag. Some photos, a spelling bee trophy, a bunch of nature books, my teddy bear, a clay statue of Crenshaw that I made when I was in 2nd grade, my worn out copy of A Hole Is to Dig. I thought about Crenshaw and the surfboard. I thought about the purple jelly beans. Mostly, though, I thought about the signs I've been noticing. I am very observant, which is a useful thing for a scientist to be. Here's what I've been observing. Big piles of bills, parents whispering, parents arguing, stuff getting sold like the silver teapot my grandma gave my mom and our laptop computer, the power going off for 2 days because he couldn't pay the bill, not much food except peanut butter and mac and cheese and a cup of noodles, my mom digging under the couch cushions for quarters, my dad digging under the couch cushions for dimes, my mom borrowing toilet paper rolls from work, the landlord coming over and saying, "I'm sorry," and shaking his head a lot. It didn't make sense. My mom had 3 part-time jobs. My dad had 2 part-time jobs. You think that could add up to whole actual jobs, but it didn't seem to. My mom used to teach music at a middle school until they cut her job. Now she works as a waitress at 2 restaurants as a cashier at drugstore. She wanted to get another job teaching music, but so far nothing had came up. After my dad had quit construction work, he started a handyman business. He did small fix it stuff, but sometimes he wasn't feeling well and had to cancel appointments. He also gave pi- private guitar lessons, and he was hoping to go to a community college part time to learn computer programming. I figured my parents had a plan for a making everything okay, because parents always have a plan. But when I asked them what it was, they said stuff like maybe they could plant a money tree in the backyard, or maybe they could start their rock band up again in a Grammy Award. I didn't want to leave our apartment, but I could. I could feel it coming, even if nobody said anything. I knew how things worked. I've been through this before. It was too bad because I really like where we live, even though I've only been here a couple of years. Swan Lake Village was the name of our neighborhood. It didn't have any real swans, but all the mailboxes had swans on them. The community pool had a swan painted on the bottom. The pool water was always warm, Mom said was from the sun, but I suspected it legally peeing. All the streets in the Seahawk Village had two warns in the names. Ours was White Moon, but there were others like Sleepy Dove and Weeping Wood and Sunny Glen. My school, Shawn Lake Elementary, was only 2 blocks from our house. It didn't have anything with swans on it. Swan Lake Village wasn't a fancy place at all, just a regular old neighborhood, but it was friendly. It was the kind of place where you could smell hot dogs and burgers grilling every weekend, where kids rode their scooters on the sidewalk and sold Lucy lemonade for a quarter a cup. It was a place where you had friends and you could count on like Misrall. You wouldn't have thought it was a place where people were worried or hungry or sad. Our school librarian likes to say you can judge a book by its cover. Maybe it's the same way with neighborhoods. Maybe you can't judge a place by its swans. Or an 11. I finally fell asleep, but around 11 I woke. I got up to go to the bathroom and I headed down the hall. I realized my parents were still awake. I couldn't hear them talking in the living room. They were thinking of a place where we could go if we couldn't pay the rent. If I don't become an animal scientist, I could make a great spy. My mom said, how about Gladys and Joe? My dad's parents, they live in an apartment in New Jersey. My dad said they only had an extra bedroom. Then he declared, plus, I couldn't live under his roof. He's the most pig-headed man on the planet. Second most pig-headed, said my mom. He could try borrowing money from my families. My dad rubbed his eyes. Do we have a rich relative I've never met? I see your point, said Mom. Then she said, how about my dad's cousin in Idaho, who has a ranch? Or her mom is in Sarasota, who has a condo? Or his old buddy, Cal, he lives in Maine on a trailer. My dad asked which of these people would take in 2 adults, 2 children, and a dog with each future. Besides, he said, he didn't want to accept anyone's handouts. You do realize we can't live in the minivan again, my mom said. No, said Dad, we can't. Antra's a lot bigger. She's take up the whole middle seat. Plus, the farts a lot. The dad sighed. Who knows? Sunday at the yard sale, somebody might give us $1 million for Robin's old high chair. Good point, said my mom. It comes with extra Cheerios stuck in the seat. They fell silent. We could sell the TV, my mom said after a while. I know it's ancient, but still. My dad shook his head. We're not barbarians. He clicked the remote and an old black and white movie came to life. My mom stood. I'm so tired. She looked at my dad with her arms crossed over her chest. Look, she said, there's nothing at all wrong with asking for help, Tom. Her voice was low and slow. It was the voice she used when a fight was coming. My chest tightened. The air felt thick. There's everything wrong with asking for help, my dad snapped. It means you failed. His voice had changed too. It was sharp and hard. We have not failed. We are doing the best we can. My mom gave a frustrated groan. Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans, Tom. Really? My dad was yelling. So now we're resorting to fortune cookie wisdom? Like it's going to help put our foods kids for food? We're refusing to ask for help. Isn't going to. We have to ask to help, Sarah. We've been to that food pantry more times than I care to admit. But in the end, this is our problem solved, my dad shouted. We're not responsible for getting sick, Tom. You're not responsible for getting laid off. My mom threw her hands in the air. Oh, what's the point? I'm going to bed. I slipped into the bathroom as my mom stormed down the hall. She slammed her bedroom door so loudly the house seemed to tremble. I waited a few minutes to be sure the coast was clear. When I headed back to my room, my dad was still on the couch, staring at the gray ghost moving across the screen. Chapter 12. I didn't sleep much after that. I tossed and turned and finally got to get some water. Everyone was asleep. The bathroom door was closed, but light was sneaking out of the cracks. I heard humming. I heard splashing. Mom? I said softly. Dad? No answer. Robin. No answer. More humming. It sounded like how much is the doggy in the window, but I couldn't be sure. I thought about whether it might be an axe murderer, but I'm taking a bath didn't seem like an axe murder kind of thing to do. I didn't want to open the door. I opened the door an inch. More splashing. A sudsy blob floated by. I opened the door all the way. Crenshaw was taking a bubble bath. And that's that. I'm going to end it on chapter 13. We'll start tomorrow. Good night.